Next, fraud auditing. Fraud auditing. What is fraud auditing? In a fraud audit, one searches for the point where the numbers and the financial statements do not mesh. What does this mean? It is a meticulous review of the financial documents conducted if a fraud is suspected. So why do entities do it? The entities do them as a precaution to prevent fraud from happening and to catch it before the loss magnifies. So this is done as a precaution. Next, fraud auditing is, however, is not an investigation. Already I told you, auditing and investigation are not one of the same. So it is not investigation. So fraud audit is not investigation. What is fraud audit then? Fraud audit is used to identify fraudulent transaction. Not to figure out how they were created. So what does the auditor do? Auditor is simply tracing every transaction performed by the company. And he will look for fraudulent transaction if any. What does a normal auditor do? Normal auditor just simply check the number for accuracy. Second, fraud auditor often go outside the books of account. Why? This is something you have to analyze deep. That's why he go outside the books of account. And he tries to find out the fraudulent transaction. This may also include reviewing the receipt. Not only from the company, but also from customers as well. So, if there are some inconsistencies, it could help to uncover the fraud. The auditor would also do interview of employees, customers, sometimes client, and find out whether fraud has taken place or not. Now, to summarize, forensic accounting is in response to an event. Financial investigation. Then findings could be used in court to resolve the dispute. What is normal audit? Normal audit is something different. Normal audit is mandatory. It is not optional. So, second point, it is measuring compliance with the reporting standards. Whatever may be the framework, you have to adhere to the same. Then in audit, you cannot get absolute assurance. You can get only reasonable assurance. What is a reasonable assurance you get? That financial statements are free from material misstatement. So, to summarize, let's see the practical differences. Forensic accounting and normal audit. What is forensic accounting? Forensic accounting has investigative mentality, whereas normal audit talks of professional skepticism. When you see the corroborative evidence, forensic accounting require more extensive corroboration. In normal audit, not extensive. Point number 3. Forensic accountant mainly focus on immaterial transaction. Why? That is where the catch lays. Here, the audit mainly covers the material transaction. Next, forensic accountant would be looking for indication of fraud that are not subject to the scope of audit. So, there are some frauds which are not covered under audit. So, forensic accountant will look for fraud that are not subject to scope of the audit, financial statement audit. What's the difference between forensic audit and the other audits, normal audit? Normal audit versus forensic audit. First, the objective. Objective of a normal audit is to express an opinion. What is the opinion? True and fair presentation. Whereas in a forensic audit, the objective is whether fraud has taken place or not. Techniques in normal audit is sample based technique, substantive techniques and complaints techniques. Whereas in forensic audit, investigative, substantive or in-depth checking. Period. This is for a particular accounting period. Here it is no such limitations. With regard to stock verification, asset, provisions, liability, etc., in a normal audit, you rely on management representation or certificate on the management would be relayed. Here you don't do so. What do? You do independent verification. Next, off balance sheet items, how do you take care in a normal audit? Vouch the arithmetic accuracy and compliance with the procedures. Here, regularity and propriety of the transactions are examined. If you find some adverse findings in normal audit, what should be done? You give negative opinion or qualified opinion. Maybe with quantification or without quantification. Here what you do in forensic audit? In forensic audit, there is legal determination of fraud impact and identification of perpetrators depending upon the scope. So these are all the differences.